Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to welcome you to our 58th Annual Rural Life Conference. And our theme for this conference is Facing Change, Promoting Healthy Lifestyles in Sustainable Communities. I really appreciate you being in attendance, and I think we have a good program for you, and I hope you have an enjoyable day. We're going to follow the program as it's printed. Our Chancellor, Dr. Lawrence Alexander, will give the welcome at this time, and we're going to follow the program as it's printed.
Good morning. Good morning. And welcome to the 2014 Annual Rural Life Conference. It is with great pleasure that we express our sincere gratitude for your presence here this morning, for you taking the time out of your busy schedules to participate in this conference. As Dean Garner said, this was initiated by late Professor Simon Haley, Director of Agriculture. The conference has been a part of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff for the last 58 years. It has provided beneficial information that will contribute to the improvement of our communities, our state, and our nation. The theme for this year's conference, again, is Facing Change, Promoting Healthy Lifestyles and Sustainable Communities. A sustainable community is one that aims to maintain and improve the economic, environmental, and social characteristics of an area so its residents can continue to lead healthy, productive, enjoyable lives. Living a healthy lifestyle means adopting several behaviors that positively impact your well-being. Therefore, it is imperative that we continue to endorse and offer opportunities that bring awareness to healthy living and methods to building sustainability in our communities for the betterment of humanity. Because of the vested interests of our students, our faculty, our staff, our stakeholders, community supporters, in collaboration with the agricultural, educational, and service agencies across the state and nation, we can continue to share information relative to agricultural production, family and farm management, enterprise development, and other related subjects. Through our collective endeavors, our partnerships, and our resources, we're able to provide opportunities that will further enhance the development and empower rural Arkansas through the Rural Life Conference. Again, we appreciate you for your continued support and attendance, and we hope that you have a very pleasant and enjoyable experience. You're welcome. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Given the occasion for which we are gathered here today, I thought I would offer a reflective moment, something that we can consider as food for thought, something to think about as we participate in this program, the workshops, and other activities scheduled for today. This reflective moment includes a salute, a challenge, and a charge. In the novel Lanterns on the Levee, historical novel Lanterns on the Levee by William Alexander Percy, the book opens with a scene along the Mississippi River. It's a stormy night, it's dark, it's raining, and it's the beginning of 1927. And the local farmers and planters are pacing along the river in the dark, stormy night, aware that the potential flood waters, which we know actually came, acutely aware that those waters represented the difference between prosperity and economic ruin. However, it doesn't take a natural disaster for a farmer or a person connected to the land to face the difference between opportunity or ruin. And when we think about the fact that every single person on this earth requires some daily intake of food and sustenance to lead a productive and effective life, it really should give us pause to salute, admire, and recognize those persons in agriculture who really make it possible for this world to exist in so many ways. Yet we face a challenge, and the challenge is that often the way we perceive a person's involved in agriculture, whether it's a producer, the livestock owner, or persons involved in grain production, our perceptions don't often align with the true reality of their work. Students who come into our programs often come in spite of the negative perceptions that are held against agriculture and those involved in that industry. So my charge to you today, for all of us who are somehow connected with this system as educators, persons in the agribusiness sector, or government officials, to really take into account that we're only here because of those persons at the ground level who get up every day, deal with rains, insect infestation, all the challenges. They make it possible for us to have a mission and purpose. So as we participate in the different activities, let us think about how we can affirm that work, how we can add value to that work, and how we can be effective advocates for making sure that our government dollars, our resources get pushed down to that ground level to help that producer make a difference. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Dr. Alexander for giving us the welcome. And he may have to slip out a little before the program is over because to take care of some urgent business. So as you see him leave, just know that we really appreciate him being here today. And I also like to thank Dr. Moore for her inspiration that she gave us earlier.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's hear it for our internationally renowned Vesper Choir. To our Chancellor, Dr. Lawrence B. Alexander, to our wonderful Dean, Dr. James O'Connor Jr., to all of our distinguished platform guests and our former Chancellor, Dr. Lawrence A. Davis Jr., to our Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs, Dr. Jacqueline McCray, sitting with us in our audience, to all participants and attendees. On behalf of the School of Agricultural Fisheries and Human Sciences, and especially the Department of Human Sciences as the host department of the 58th Annual Rural Life Conference, we are very happy to have with us our distinguished speaker this morning, the Administrator of Food and Nutrition Service of the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C., as our S.A. Haley Memorial Lecturer, Ms. Audrey Rowe. You have Administrator Rowe's biography before you. However, I'd just like to briefly highlight a few of her noteworthy achievements and accomplishments this morning. Administrator Rowe brings to the federal government over 20 years of experience in human sciences, policy development, fiscal management, and service delivery, with particular focus on vulnerable populations, such as low-income women, children, and our youth. In her role as administrator for the Food and Nutrition Service, this organization provides children and needy families with having better access to food and a more healthful diet through its 15 nutrition assistance programs and nutrition efforts. In addition, she also served as Deputy Administrator for Special Nutrition Programs, leading the effort to pass the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act of 2010, which was the legislative centerpiece of our First Lady, Michelle Obama's Let's Move initiative to end childhood obesity in a generation. Administrator Rowe is an author, an editor, and a graduate of Federal City College. She was a fellow at the John F. Kennedy School of Government Institute of Politics at Harvard University. Administrator Rowe, we anticipate hearing all that you have to say as you impart valuable information on our theme, Facing Change, Promoting Healthy Lifestyles and Sustainable Communities. And now, without any further ado, it is my honor and a privilege to introduce and present our S.A. Haley Memorial Lecturer for our 58th Annual Rural Life Conference, the Administrator of Food and Nutrition Service of United States Department of Agriculture. I give you Ms. Audrey Rowe. Please proceed.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Reed, for that wonderful introduction, and to all of the distinguished platform guests. I'm really honored to be here. When the invitation arrived and I looked at it, I didn't hesitate, and indicated to our staff that let's start working on making this happen. Because it was important to me in my role as administrator to talk to and to share information with communities throughout the United States, but particularly rural communities where I focus a lot of our efforts as part of the Food and Nutrition Services Administration. You'll hear me talk a little bit about it. But also, we can't have nutrition without having farming. And so from the nutrition side, we reach across the hall to work with the farm side of the agency. And for rural America, I think there are many challenges. And I'll have to admit, I grew up in New York City, and right now I'm living in Hedgesville, West Virginia, which is pretty rural. And I've learned an awful lot, both in my capacity in working at FNS, but also living in a rural community, and what it takes to manage, to have access to resources, food resources, healthy food resources within rural environments. And so I'm really very excited to be here today to share with you some information. I know you're going to have workshops later, and I'm hoping some of this information, which I will be sharing, will be useful as you go into workshops, or you can take it with you and do some follow-up for yourselves on the many programs that this administration has brought to bear on rural America. So let me start. First of all, let me start with the White House Rural Council, which is leading a new Made in America initiative. When President Obama established the White House Rural Council, he said strong rural communities are key to a stronger America. And in that capacity, My boss, the Secretary of the Department of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack, chairs the Rural Council. The Rural Council has made enormous strides in trying to improve the exports from rural communities into the various marketplaces. And you can see the numbers that we have there, $2.3 trillion in exports, up nearly $700 billion from 2009. We have seen the strongest 5-year period for U.S. food and agriculture exports in our history. As the President said in the State of the Union, we have seen the strongest exports for U.S. food and agriculture in our history. The United States agricultural exports recorded $144.1 billion in calendar year 2013, and the trade surplus was a record $39.9 billion. The President, however, specifically instructed the Rural Council, in coordination with the Department of Agriculture and other departments, to commit more resources to connecting rural business and all types of export information and assistance through a comprehensive strategy, including the following commitments to provide over the next 9 months. And let me talk to you a little bit about some of those commitments. First, the Farm Services Administration, and we have colleagues here from various U.S. missions, USDA mission areas. Farm Service is one of them. There are a number of loans that Farm Service Administration is making available for capital improvements, refinancing certain debts, purchase of farmland. They're also looking at an area in which I've been doing a lot of work with the Beginning Farmers and Ranchers Development Program. Starting out, how do we rebuild the farm community? And how do we educate, train, outreach, and provide outreach and mentoring to new farmers? The Natural Resources and Conservation Service. Again, these programs, the agency approves contracts to provide financial assistance to help plan and implement conservation practices that address natural resource concerns or opportunities to help save our energy, improve soil, water, plant, air, animal, and related resources on agricultural lands and non-industrial private lands. The outreach and information that is available, if you're going to talk about sustainable communities, this is an area and this is an agency that you should be looking at in terms of resources. NRCS has a number of grants. I won't go through all of them, but let me just say that they all provide financial and technical assistance to agricultural producers. There are voluntary conservation programs. I tried to include, if you can see it, I hope you can see it, the URL contact for the NRCS grants. There are a number of grants programs, and it's a range of voluntary programs, which again, I hope you will have a chance to talk about from our NRCS staff who are here. But let me say for Arkansas, in 2013, Arkansas's NRCS applications increased by 230%, from 1,198 to 3,957 contracts, which exceeded our 2012 level by 12%. So folks in Arkansas are making a difference in accessing these grants and these various programs. Let me move on to my favorite, the Beginning Farmers and Ranchers Development Program. This is a program that I think, as we see more and more farmers aging, but we're starting to see young people who are becoming interested in farming. They need support, they need mentoring, they need resources to help them enter into farming, whether it is farming in traditional sense or this new surge of organic farming. But these young people are coming in, and as our Deputy Secretary says, this is one of the most important programs that we have if we are to keep our farm and our agricultural community alive. The Food Conservation and Energy Act of 2008 appropriated $75 million from 2009 to 2012 to develop and offer education, training, outreach, mentoring to enhance the sustainability of the next generation of farmers. What I'm pleased to let you know is that the Farm Bill just passed has continued this funding, and we will have an increase in these resources over the next 4 years. So beginning farmers, and I've worked with farmers who have applied and participated in these grant programs, and when I talk a little bit later about some of the farm to school efforts, you will see the connection between new farmers also being able to develop new business opportunities. Let me talk a little bit next about our last program, which is outreach to socially disadvantaged farmers. Again, the Office of Advocacy and Outreach works across USDA to enhance accesses for services to communities we serve. Now, it's not just enough to have these programs available, but we have to do the outreach and inform and share information with communities who traditionally have not participated in these programs to let them know about it. And so the Office of Outreach and Advocacy provides outreach and technical assistance, information on competitive grant programs, and in particular the competitive grant program, also known as the 2501 program, which some of you may be familiar with. The program was provided over $50 million in funding for 5 years in this Farm Bill. So this, again, is an initiative of USDA's and our own outreach and rural development efforts that will continue beyond this year. Let me move to Farm to School, because that now takes you, so we've got the farming side, now there's a whole new business side and a new way to develop our Farm to School programs. The Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act, which we worked on, which was the cornerstone of the legislative program of the First Lady, was an opportunity for us to change the meal patterns that existed in our schools, to begin to introduce healthier options for students, to begin to provide more nutrition education to students so that they will realize, and for many kids, if you're in an urban area, you ask them where carrots come from, they'll tell you Walmart. Have no sense that carrots are grown and what that means to. I was talking to one teacher and she said, you know, they did a little school garden, and when the cucumbers came up, the kids were so excited. They just had never seen anything grow out from the ground. And she almost had a heart attack as they started grabbing him and eating them before she had a chance to clean them off or anything. She was worried about some of those kids. But the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act has given us an opportunity to work and to expand. And one of the particular aspects of it is the school local sourcing initiatives. So schools, as they're looking at access to changing the fruits and vegetables and poultry and others that they provide, other foods that they provide their students, are passing legislation to say, let's locally source. So in a community, you may have children who are having access to fruits and vegetables that are coming no further away than 20 miles. That's a big difference in fruits and vegetables that are coming from the West Coast to the East Coast for children to have access. So that has been a major initiative of ours. We looked to see how that is working, and I'm not going to belabor a lot of these statistics, but when we looked at the number of schools who were participating, the thing that struck me was that we found that school districts were purchasing more than $350 million in local foods. Small farmers. It was an opportunity for small farmers who participate with aggregators to get healthy foods from their farms to our children, to open up a new business and also to give our children greater variety. Some of the types of products you can see. I don't have to go into it, but fruits and vegetables are clearly the most common, but there are all types of food products. We're looking for food processors, manufacturers, distributors. These are all economic opportunities for communities to start thinking about how you grow and build sustainable businesses in your community and put resources back into the community. So the Farm to School program is one that can help. If you have a chance, you can go on our website, look at the Farm to School census, get the information on what's happened in Arkansas and all the schools that are participating. But look at this, 14% of Arkansas schools are participating in the Farm to School, and 15% say they plan to participate in the future. That's an investment of over $643 million going into the community for buying local foods. That is something that you need to think about. Farm to School grants. Now, how do you get there? Well, we have a number of Farm to School grants that we make available. We have planning grants. Community organizations, schools can come together and apply for planning grants that will allow them to create a Farm to School initiative in their communities. We have just released the new set of the new RFA for Farm to School grants, and so I hope, again, you will go to our website. The important dates I've put on this slide. April 2nd, we will have a conference and we'll be asking for letters of intent. But this is another opportunity for Pine Bluff and for Arkansas to come together and say, we want to do something different in our schools. We want to help sustain and build our small farmers. We have resources that can help strengthen our communities. But these grants have just been awarded. RFA has just been issued, and so this is another opportunity. My kids, I love my kids. Farmers markets. Let me talk about them quickly. Farmers markets are growing. I'm not talking about the boutique farmers markets, or as somebody that I travel with, my regional administrator, who I don't see here, he's around here somewhere, talks about the shishi or the fufu markets. We're talking about farmers markets that are small road stands, small stands that come into communities, farmers that can come into communities and are able to offer their products. We have several programs. The Farmers Market Promotion Program, it's a grant on a competitive basis. In 2012, we had about 130 grants that were made available. So farmers markets in general. Then we have farmers markets that are in the SNAP program, food stamp program. We work to authorize farmers markets to be able to accept SNAP as a new customer base for farmers, for those farmers. It has increased tremendously over the last 2 years. And the amount of revenue that farmers are now seeing from the SNAP Farmers Market Benefit Program has doubled. And so again, another opportunity for farm communities and farmers to have new customer base. WIC, Women, Infants, and Children, another program. Again, farmers markets, they're available. We have both the Farmers Market WIC program, and then we have the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program. So there are two things that I would encourage you to do here. First, make sure that your state is offering and the city is benefiting from a Senior Farmers Market coupon program. And second, make sure that you have access to that, the farmers have access to that program and to those coupons. Let me quickly run through a couple of things. Strike Force, many of you are probably aware of Strike Force that exists. It is our way, the Secretary's initiative, to bring all the resources together to work in communities. In the state of Arkansas, you can see the data there. There are 40 partners. We've opened 5 new markets, farmers markets and food deserts. There are a number of activities, the Atlanta Delta Seed, Seeds of Change Initiative. All of those initiatives are helping to, I think, strengthen what is happening in Arkansas. The total amount of investment, $146.6 million, 804 grants, and 719 contracts. Real money coming into these communities. But I'm going to end on what is my mission this year. and that is ensuring that our children during the summer, have access to food, healthy, nutritious food. If we look at the food insecurity, and when food insecurity is a nice way to say hunger, we feed children throughout the school year, a breakfast in many schools, a lunch, and even some schools a snack and a supper. School ends, hunger doesn't. So we are looking for ways to ensure that we are expanding our summer feeding program. Last year, we targeted a number of states. You can see Arkansas. Yesterday, I presented an award to the governor. Arkansas made a commitment to increase access for children to summer feeding. They increased access. The goal that they set, they exceeded by about 50%. All total, we increased the number of meals last year in those states by about 7 million. Arkansas was 1.6 million of that. So we have a governor who is clearly committed to ensuring that children during the summer have access to food. Those are just some of the totals, some of the things that we've learned. We have to have partners. All of you in here are partners. You have a way of working with each other and with schools and with community-based organizations and churches and others to ensure that there are sites for children in this great city and in this great state. I'm going to skip over a little bit more statistics and just talk about Arkansas's children. 62% of all children participate in the School Food Service Authority. That means they're eligible for free and reduced price. You look at the numbers on here, you'll see that when it gets down to summer participation, it drops from over 62% in school lunch to only 41,000 average daily participants in summer food programs. So there's some hungry kids around here. And I think it is incumbent upon us to ensure that that does not continue. Governor had a commitment. As I said earlier, they exceeded that commitment, and I was very excited to give the governor the first award for successfully expanding summer meals in Arkansas. But there's a lot more work to be done. For us, with the federal level, we are targeting, again, a number of states, and you can see the states there that we continue to work with to ensure that children will have access. But let me step back to Arkansas for a minute, because we need you. And we need you because the counties that do not have a school food summer program, Cleveland, Grant, Prairie, Montgomery, Lafayette, Stone, Izard, Randolph, all communities where there are no summer food programs in this state. We need to fix that. We have revamped our resources to make it easy, because I hear time and time again, it's complicated. There's a lot of paperwork. How do we find information? So I tasked our staff, and they have done an excellent job. Let's have a user-friendly website. Let's have a website that someone can get on their iPad, iPhone, or on their computer. So there are various ways in which you can access that website if you're interested. We have rebranded our summer program. It's called Summer Food Rocks. And you will see posters and billboards and flyers and things talking about Summer Food Rocks. We have made available to, on those billboards, there's a 1-800 number that individuals can call. So if you know someone who says, my kid's out of school and I'm concerned about where they're going to get their summer meals, 1-866-3-HUNGRY. Simple number, easy. We are working. We won't get it done this year, but next year we're working so it'll be on an iPhone. It'll be an app. You just hit the app from wherever you are geographically. It'll tell you all the feeding sites that are in your geographic area. It is important, my brothers and sisters and ladies and gentlemen, that we put forward the effort to feed our children. As I travel not only around the United States, but I travel overseas, and I come back home and I look at the poverty there, and I walk into some of our communities, and I think I'm back overseas. I don't see a lot of difference in some of our communities. We as a country can fix that. And so I encourage all of you, avail yourselves of all of these resources. Build a strong, sustainable community. Collaborate with one another so that you can leverage resources. And collectively, I think we can overcome the issues of hunger, malnutrition. We can strengthen our rural communities, and we can address the issues of poverty. We are prepared to be a partner at USDA, and we are prepared to work with you. Thank you very much for having me here.
Thanks for giving us a clear understanding of the many opportunities that are out there for us to take part in, and we take that as a challenge, and we will pursue and try to improve our communities. Thank you again very much. Dr. Alexander this morning stole a little bit of my thunder by giving you a little bit more information about the S.A. Haley lecturer, the history. 58 years ago, Simon Alexander Haley initiated the first Rural Life Conference. And as you see printed on the inside of your front cover, gives you a little bit more detail on that, on the conference itself. But one of the traditions that we have is that we give a Simon A. Haley medallion to our morning lecturer speaker.
To our distinguished panel, our distinguished guests on stage, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. Many of you that have attended this event over the years know that the Rural Life Conference Task Force selects a recipient or recipient each year to receive an honor of the Rural Life Conference dedication. But what you may not know are the categories from which we select the recipients. And so once I read these categories, you will know why we selected the 2 honorees this year. The first criteria is their contributions to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff School of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Human Sciences, their work in community development, and 3, to improve the quality of life and people in the community, and the last one, positive contributions to the Rural Life Conference. We have 2 recipients this year, Dr. Lawrence A. Davis, Jr., and also Dr. Lina R. Godfrey, posthumously. Now, we have listed in the program some information about them, but you know there's not enough space in the program and there's not enough time during this session for us to tell you about all of the accomplishments of these 2 recipients. So what I'm going to do is just going to highlight a few of the things so you can read the biographies in the program. First, I would like to tell you that Dr. Lawrence A. Davis, Jr. is our first recipient. He spent more than 80% of his life at A.N. Menin UAPB. Administratively, Dr. Davis served as chair of the Mathematics and Physics Department, as Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences, and spent the last 21 years of his career as Chancellor of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, and retiring in June 2012. Dr. Davis was an avid supporter of agriculture, of our school, the Agriculture, Fisheries, and Human Sciences programs, and to the conference directly and indirectly. In his role as Chancellor, he assisted conference planners in identifying corporate sponsors, in contacting speakers for the plenary sessions, and in making the university's facilities available. Many of you may remember that we used to have this conference on campus. Indirectly, his support for the Rural Life Conference was shown by him being a firm believer in this conference, and he played a major role in improving the lives of participants and their communities. He recognized and encouraged participants to return home to put this knowledge to good use. Dr. Davis's abiding support of the conference was evident as he ensured that we had all campus facilities available. And his ongoing support of this conference helped to improve the lives and livelihood of the conference participants and people in the community in the Delta. Dr. Davis and Dr. Garner, would you please join me at the podium? The plaque reads, 58th Annual Rural Life Conference dedicated to Dr. Lawrence A. Davis, Jr. for outstanding service and leadership, University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, School of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Human Sciences, Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Dr. Lawrence B. Alexander, Chancellor, Dr. James O. Garner, Jr., Dean, Director, given February 28, 2014. Would you please present it, Dr. Garner? Our second recipient is Dr. Lina Godfrey, posthumously. Dr. Godfrey was instrumental and was a pillar in the Department of Human Sciences. Her research in housing, rural poverty prediction, and other areas did much to help the Arkansas citizens improve their quality of life. She published numerous abstracts and articles of her research findings. Her grant writing, teaching skills in human sciences were invaluable, and for accreditation. She served on numerous university committees, and her participation in the Rural Life Conference spans over 30 years, beginning in 1980. She served on many committees as a member, co-chairperson, chairperson, and as a workshop facilitator, and also presided over the general session in 1992. She was honored at the Chancellor's Benefit of the Arts as an unsung hero for her longtime membership on the Benefit Steering Committee. She also donated her free time to serve on its reception and hostess committees. To accept the award on her behalf, Dr. Wheat, would you please come forward with Dr. Garner? Oh, I'm sorry. Please, and the plaque reads the same as before.
Thank you, and that ends our program for this session.